هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك. اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله، اللهم لعنهم جميعا. ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله أجمعين محمد. وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين، واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. يا ليتنا كنا معهم فنفوز فوزا عظيما. Just a reminder that throughout these majalis to always remember to say this. When you hear the qari of the azah say Ya laytana kunna ma'akum, or you say Ya laytani kuntu ma'ahum fa'afuza fawzan azima, just when you say this you will receive the reward of those that were martyred with Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. And this is the nights of Allah's benevolence. The nights of Allah's reward, the nights where Allah Azza wa Jal gives us another opportunity to make amends with our Creator. We have Shahr Ramadan al-Mubarak that just passed, and those that were or had the opportunity to go to Hajj. And then finally we have this, the nights of Muharram. And then we go into the desert for another 8 months after this. But this is the last opportunity to give yourself that boost and to make amends. And inshallah, over the following nights, our discussions will revolve around relationships. Tonight, it will be the relationship between us and this world. And I think it's very necessary for us to discuss this subject. And it's fundamental that you will find that Allah Azza wa Jal continuously mentions the value of this world. And Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, likewise in Nahj al-Balagha, you will find on numerous amounts of times he will talk about the transience of this world. That this world is transient. That means it's terminal. That means it comes to an end. See, the question that everyone asks, what is the meaning of life? What is the purpose of us being here? And how do we understand this world? Do we use this world for what it is? Or do we use this world for what we want it to be? Taban, we want the world to be perfect. Everyone thinks about this perfect lifestyle. But is this world really perfect? Sometimes we watch over some children and they're playing with toys. Our kids or someone else's kids. And as they're playing, you will notice that they will fight. They'll get angry. And during these disputes, they get that serious. If one child was holding a gun, they would shoot the other child. And it's a dispute over something. Like today I was talking to a friend of mine and his kids were fighting. And I asked him, what are they? Because I'm always interested, what are children fighting over? Because you'd be amazed what they fight over. And he said that they're fighting over the box of the toy, not the toy. The toy has been set aside. They are fighting, the dispute is over the box that contained the toy. Now we sit and we laugh at this, but we are no different to the children. What we perceive to be something that is menial or something that is so mundane in a way that we look at it that it has no purpose or has no aim. This is the reality of this world, and those that have passed from this world and have moved on look at us and how we deal with the world in the same way as we look at those children. So how do we deal with this world? Keeping in mind that nothing will satiate you in this world. Nothing. If you take a look at the main driving force that makes people move along in this life, which is money and acquiring money. If I were to ask you right now, how much money would be enough? You might say 1 million, but then when the 1 million comes, you will say 2 million. And continue on, and you will never be satiated. Because no money is ever enough. If it was ever enough, you'd think people like Bill Gates would have retired. You'd think all these rich people on Forbes' list, if you think that's enough money, they would have retired. We might point our fingers at them and laugh at them, but if we are in the same situation, we will strive and continue to make as much money as we possibly can. And because money doesn't satiate us, because money doesn't fulfill us, we resort to drugs. When people hear the word drugs, they say, oh, I've never used ice or cocaine or heroin in my life. No, drugs could be alcohol, could be gambling, could be even the sedatives people take because a doctor subscribes it. They think, oh, this is legitimate now. A lot of people, they take sedatives. And that because the doctor subscribes it, they say this must be legitimate. Even though a methamphetamine is a methamphetamine, regardless if it has a prescription with it or not. You know, any opioid's an opioid. They both come from the same plant. Just because one has been done by a person wearing a lab coat and the other one's been done by someone without a lab coat, they're still drugs. And we use them in order to make everything pass away, but then the hangover comes in and we're back into reality and what this world is. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullahi wa salamu alayh says, "Ad-dunya taghur wa tadur wa tamur." 3 simple words about this dunya, about this world. He says, taghur. Taghur in the sense that it entices you. It says, come to me. I am fun. There's so much here for you. And then the Imam says, وَتَضُرْ. It harms. Why? Because once it entices you, it doesn't give you what you expect from it. See, people expect satisfaction. People expect rest and respite. People expect that fulfillment and that tranquil and serene feeling that they want, but they don't get it from the dunya. And then the Imam says, finally, tamur. It passes by. It leaves you behind. And then the Imam in the same statement says, Inna Allah ta'ala lam yardhaha thawaban li awliya'ih wala iqaban li a'da'ih. Not only is this dunya of no value in this sense, he says that Allah does not even accept it as a reward for who? For those that are close to him. It's not even a reward, so it doesn't even, hasn't have that pleasure and satisfaction. You know, when the Jehovah's Witness come to your house, and if you ever, has anyone ever allowed them to come in? And they actually tell you about, they come and they said, if you look at all the planets, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, that's what NGT calls it, so we're going to call it Uranus. So anyway, if he says you look at all the planets, and we've got Mercury and And Pluto's not a planet anymore. So, but if we look at all these planets, they say these planets are unlivable. There's no life on them. So, these people, because they're limited to the solar system, they don't move out of the solar system. They said the only livable possible place is Earth. So Earth is paradise. That's the conclusion they come to. Earth becomes paradise. Allah Azza wa Jal says, even this earth is not for my servants as a reward for the righteous. And even as a punishment, could you imagine, this is what brings a shiver down your spine, that the worst form of punishment that you can think of on this earth is not even a punishment that Allah would consider in the hereafter. All it is a proving grounds, if you will. Somewhere where you do your qualification lap to where you end up in the hereafter. And if we look at the word dunya, what is the dunya? The dunya is a lowly world. Daniyya. It's lowly. Not only that, it's a terminal world. This is the other point that I need to appreciate, that this world is terminal. It comes to an end. That this world is like a home that you are leasing. You lease a home. Who renovates a home that they lease? You know, the only people that I know that have renovated homes that they've leased are ones that are usually missing a few kangas in the back paddock, as they say. You know, something's just not ticking right well there. It's not your property. At any point, the owner of the house say, mate, you know, thanks for being here. You know, thank you, come again. See you later. Find some other place. And you've worked all this hard work into building this house or work on this house, and it's not even yours. Allah Azza wa Jal, when He mentions about this world, He says that this world is la'ibun wa lahu. That this world is just a play for play. It's not a world that's for real. It's a plaything. And then He uses the parable, the example. He says, like when the crops have the rain come down upon them, and the farmers look at the crops and say, they're ready for harvesting, and after a while, you look, have you noticed how plant life comes about? It suddenly goes green, the flowers bloom, and then they wilt, and then it turns yellow, the leaves fall, and everything is gone. That moment of gold just suddenly disappears. And He says this is how the world is. It's not eternal. In fact, an American poet wrote about this, Robert Frost. He wrote a poem, he said, nothing gold can stay. And it's a very nice poem if you take a look at how this world is. It can never remain. This world eventually leads away. Now, there are several types of people when it comes to this world. There are those that are totally submerged in this world. فَأَمَّا مَنْ طَغَى وَآثَرَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا فَإِنَّ الْجَحِيمَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. Allah Azza wa Jal says about these people that rebel, the ones that want this world, they seek only this world. وَآثَرَ, that this person does everything for the dunya. You know, you see these people, their life is the dunya. You know, they love life, as they say. Allah Azza wa Jal says these people that want this world, they don't get this world. In fact, He says, فَإِنَّ الْجَحِيمَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. Al-Ma'wa, meaning their final resting place. And they were not resting there. Their final abode is Al-Jahim, is the fire of hell. Those that seek the dunya, eventually this is where they end up. You can't prefer this world over the next. It's impossible and get paradise. This world's counterpart is the fire of hell, if you attach yourself to this world. And it all begins with what? the love of this world. Loving this world. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Says, حب الدنيا رأس كل خطيئة. أحسنت. That the love of this world, you hear this hadith a lot. The love of this world, رأس meaning it is the main part that leads to every problem, every mistake, every error is the love of this world. The problem is when you're so infatuated with this world and you're so attached to this world, you don't listen to when people talk to you. You don't want to hear what... It's like, you've ever seen when someone's in love with somebody? They're in love and everyone's telling them this person's faults. If a guy likes a girl or a girl likes a guy and they're in love and everyone tells them this person has all these faults, they don't hear. You know? Sometimes people say things that are so apparent. And this person, don't you notice every day she's with some other guy? Can't see. Keeps walking. He doesn't listen. Why? Because he's in love. And when you're in love with this dunya, you don't see its uyub. You don't see these flaws that this world has at all. The other type of people are in this eternal struggle with this world. Their relationship with this world is a clash. One day they're with the dunya, one day with the akhirah. They don't know who to be with. They don't know who to attach themselves with. Because you need to remember the world doesn't stop enticing you, ever. Even when Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, when he speaks to his sons, Al-Hasan wal-Hussein alayhim as-salam, when he's given them his final advice, he says to them, وَلَا تَبْغِيَ الدُّنْيَا وَإِنْ بَغَتْكُمَا. Do not seek this world, even if it has sought you. Because the world seeks you. The world doesn't leave you alone. Just like all these things that entice you. The shaitan doesn't leave you alone. And nafs al-ammara, your lowly desires don't leave you alone. All these three work together in a network and they don't stop. But some people, they live in a clash. One day, you'll see him, he's bil masjid ma'al awadim, he's at the mosque with the religious. The next day, he's on the podium in a nightclub. You know these people, that one day they're dunya, one day they're akhirah. That you'll see him in some gatherings, you know, mu'min taq, he's holding the subhan, he's reading every ayah, dua, and then the next time he's with another group, God knows where he ends up. Now then there are those who the akhirah is the only worry. That they only seek the hereafter. Now when you only seek the hereafter, what you don't understand is you gain this world and the next world. You don't lose in this world. If I only seek the hereafter, I gain this world. Because when people come up to you and they tell you, what does it mean to seek the hereafter? Some people think seeking the hereafter means I have to be a nasik, I have to be one of the recluses. You know, in the old days, they used to have like monks, or what they used to actually call them a recluse. A recluse would actually hide in a cave and sit and worship all the time. One man came up to the Imam, Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, and said to the Imam that I am of those. So he says to the Imam, I love this dunya. And the Imam said, what do you love in this dunya? He says, I love in this dunya to raise a family, to get married, to raise a family, to go to the Hajj, to do good. And the Imam says, these are the attributes of the one that loves the akhirah, not the one that loves the dunya. So this man's love of the dunya is not the love of the dunya that we are talking about. To live and do what's right is love of the akhirah. This is the whole purpose of this. Now, in another narration, when we look at how this world is. The Imam says, عَجِبْتُ لِمَنْ رَأَى الدُّنْيَا وَتَقَلُّبُهَا بِأَهْلِهَا كَيْفَ يَرْكَنُ إِلَيْهَا. He says, I'm amazed at the one that sees this dunya. And he says, تَقَلُّبُهَا. تَقَلُّبُهَا, if you take a look at the way it deals with people. When you say بتقلب in Lebanese, something that's unstable, for the chemists, like sodium. If you were to put sodium in the atmosphere, it's unstable. It reacts with the atmosphere. There's these unstable, or when we're talking about instability, even easier. If you were to take a look at, for example, hydrogen. Hydrogen's unstable. Why? Hydrogen, all times, it never comes as a H, it's always a H2. It has to always bond. Why? Because it's not stable. There are things that are not stable. This dunya, there's no stability. Not only that, this dunya is unpredictable. How often do you prepare something and it doesn't go to plan? And the transformation of this dunya. How often have you seen people living a good life and then things fall apart? The Imam says, he says, I'm amazed at those that see this instability when it comes to this world. And then he mentions, كَيْفَ يَرْكَنُ إِلَيْهَا. How does someone that see this instability, how do they place their trust in the dunya? How can someone place their trust in a place that has no stability? That's not firm. How can I put all my reliance in this world when I can see this world has nothing to give me? And like I said, only a believer can gain both worlds. The worst is when you lose both worlds. Like Umar ibn Sa'd. Umar ibn Sa'd, the one that led the army, the commander of the army that were behind the tragedy of Karbala, of what happened to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, we tend to look at Umar ibn Sa'd and say, well, I'm not that guy. I will never be that guy. But the thing is, don't be too sure of yourself. See, this is the whole idea of us sitting here and gathering. To understand the stances of both sides. Why should I not be too sure? I don't know if you've ever seen, when it comes to criminology, when they're studying a crime or a criminal. For example, when a major crime happens, like a rape, murder, do you think the police, when they look for a criminal, they don't start with the ones that have committed, the ones that are on what? First, the ones that have committed any perverted crime to begin with. They're the first ones that they look at. Why? Why don't they just say, well, maybe it could have been a random, someone that's never done anything before? And you'll find all the time, it's someone that's done stuff before. Why? Because the criminal evolves. In other words, the criminal starts on one thing, then they move to the next level, they move to the next level. Likewise, a sinner. Those that agreed to kill Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam weren't people that were doing righteous things their whole life and then suddenly flipped. They were people that were doing these lesser sins, as we like to call them. Things that we take a look at and we think, well, that's not really a big issue. And they build up these sins, and eventually when this is offered to them on the table, they take it. Even Al-Hur, when we commemorate the martyrdom of Al-Hur ibn Yazid al-Riyahi, the one that repented and went back to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, Al-Hur, when he stopped Imam Hussein alayhi salam in Karbala, he never thought they were going to kill the Imam. At no point. He thought we are stopping him. Even though he was moving by these commands, he was not someone, when he realized that they were going to kill the Imam, and because he was a good man and he had been doing the right things in his life, He had built himself up ready to turn when the test was placed in front of him. This battle that we live in our life between the dunya and the akhirah results in these major battles. When it comes to standing for right over wrong. When I'm put in a position where I have a major test, it begins with these minor tests that we see as minor. When it comes to work and my prayers. When I have to go to work and during work I want to pray. And you always hear that line. Well, I remember one man, he said to my father, I can't pray at work. And my father said, why not? He said, because I'm najis. I was thinking, what does he do? You know, he's najis. This guy, every day he goes to work, he's najis. And then he said, I'm a bartender. This guy serves alcohol. So he's got all this alcohol, but he's a bartender. So he says, I'm najis the whole time. The whole thing is, if I want to go to work, it's funny, if I want to go watch the game after work, I managed to get clothes with me to have a shower and run off to watch the game. Or if I want to go somewhere after work, everything's prepared. But if I want to pray at work, can't I do the prerequisites before I go to work? When it comes to be invited to mixed gatherings that have sin within them, do I take the correct stance at these points, or do I fall at this point when it comes to these things? Now the Imam, Hadith al-Qudsi says that Allah Azza wa Jal, when He created the dunya, He said to the dunya, He gave the dunya a few points. Of these points that He gave the dunya, He said, khalifi man talabaki wa wafiqi man khalafaki. That whoever seeks you, go against them. And whoever does not seek you or goes against you, agree with them and work with them. And this is how the dunya works. When you deal with the dunya, like the dunya is, what is the dunya? A terminal world, then you have happiness. When you deal with the dunya like it is not, then you find that you're always tired and you're always chasing after your tail. You never stop. It's a perpetual fight and struggle until your life comes to an end. These 10 nights and 13 nights, inshallah, that we will be commemorating, but specifically in the 10 days, the Imams would say that they would never ever see, in one of the narrations where Imam Rida alayhi salam says he would never see his father Imam al-Qadhim smiling. And he was saddened in these 10 days. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And then he says, until the 10th day. And on the 10th day, he says, this is when the Imam would be filled with sorrow and grief. In fact, Al-Imam Ar-Rida alayhi salam, when he mentions this 10th day, he mentions to his companion that he says to him that if you wish to cry over anything or anyone, you have tragedies, we have problems. He says, cry over Al-Hussein. If you're going to cry over something, cry over Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And then he says, in this narration, he says, because the Imam was killed slaughtered in the same way that a sheep is slaughtered. This is what he mentions to him. And there's a lot of traditions and a lot of analogies as to why the Imam mentions this. But of the analogies that are used, It's because when we slaughter a sheep, or we slaughter a goat, or we slaughter a camel, or we slaughter a cow, everyone looks at these. In fact, we have the term, they are lambs for the slaughter, that they have been bought to be killed. No one will ever contest, no one will ever contend, no one will ever protest if you were to kill a sheep. If you were to kill some other animal, then you'd have all these bodies, government bodies and lobby groups stand up against you. So, and first, to say that it was a sheep is to show in the manner that the Imam was killed. Secondly, when it comes to slaughtering the sheep, and there's another thing that the ulama that have looked over this have said. They have said when it comes to slaughtering a sheep, it's usually done on a day where you rejoice. When you come back from the Hajj and it's the day of Eid, they slaughter a sheep for you. And everyone's rejoicing on this day. And this day that when the Imam was slaughtered, everyone was rejoicing that was around there. And finally, of the other points the ulama mentioned, is the fact that everyone took part in this. When a sheep is slaughtered, people take a part of it. Everyone takes a piece from it. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, from every tribe, some took his helmet, some took his shirt, some took his turban, others took his ring. They took every part that they could take from what was left of the Imam. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah wa ala al-arwah allati hallat bifina'ik. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين على علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين ورحمة الله وبركاته والحمد لله رب العالمين وصل اللهم على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.